But what I do, I have to deal with agents a lot, because as I told you earlier, I run a studio myself, and I do convince a lot of other actors that may not be interested in the rate to do anime to still do it, because it is constantly working your voice, and you are learning so much. And I think, even though it pays less than other work, it is by far the most challenging acting work out there, because it's stressful. You're trying to match timing. There's a lot of stuff that's
right.
Really
and if you're an actor on screen, which I haven't done yet, it's very rare in your career that you have a recurring role. You'll spend the first usually 5 to 10 years doing one role in a television series. You are guy number 2 or newscaster 1, and you don't go back. And anime and animation gives you an opportunity to do serial work. So you are able to establish a character and then have an arc over sometimes a year or 2, or I've been lucky enough to do some of the OVAs, and we have to return to a character 2 or 3 years later. And you don't have that experience very often on camera. So it allows you to do character development that I think you wouldn't otherwise have.
I don't know if that was even part of anyone's question, but it was a question that I had after looking up her credits, because I've never met you before, and it's a pleasure to meet you, by the way.
Pleasure to meet you too.
And all the conventions I've been to, I've not been to one with you yet, so it's a special moment for me, as it is for you guys, yeah. I'm crying on the inside. I am.
You can push your eyes, right?
Yeah, I'm pushing my eye technique. Do you guys have any other questions about stuff? No? You sure?
What video games do you play?
Yeah.
There's some questions formulating, like
Right here in the back in the white jacket, yes sir?
This may sound random, but did you voice Fuga Yamaichi from Persona 3?
I actually did in the beginning. It has since been replaced. It's somebody else at the very end. But I started the character. And that's another thing, that sometimes it's a scheduling situation where someone will come in and have to match you because you're just not available. But that was one of my first roles, yes. What made you ask that question?
Because, like, I was wondering, because it was kind of familiar, like, Dari from Gurren Lagann and Erica from Dororo.
Yes, both of those.
And there may be a Persona 3 movie later on in Japan. If it does come out here in America, if they ask you, will you voice it or no?
It would depend on the schedule, but I would love to.
it's pretty safe to say that the answer to that question almost 100% of the time will be yes. If anyone asks me to do a role, if I can do it, I will do it. I don't care what it is. Like, it's really fun work. You'd be an idiot to start turning stuff down. You had a question too.
Yes?
If you ever have to sound like exasperated, do you ever like go around or jump up and down and record yourself?
I think we do sometimes move. It's very physical. The problem when you are in front of a microphone is that it picks up everything. So if you were actually running, you could knock something over. There's a sound underneath your feet. You add what we call Foley, which isn't our job. And so you do find out that you end up, when you're running, you end up moving your body because you have a sense of rhythm of, come on, we have to get going. But it's pretty rare that you actually run in place because of the sound.
Oh, I meant like before when you record, I mean, to make it sound like you're exhausted.
I think I've done that sometimes. How about you, Christopher?
I mean, no. The only comparison I used to have is that when I was a smoker, I would use that as an excuse to go smoke a cigarette or something like that. But not, I guess, not necessarily. But a lot of the times, if you're doing scenes like that, just the process of what she was just doing there and running like this, we gotta get to where we need to go. You will be kind of winded after a while too.
And there is a danger if you're doing a running scene or a fighting scene or a crying scene. When you get too much into it, which is why on-camera actors end up having to be revoiced, it actually can strain your voice. And so your voice isn't clear and you don't have control. So as a voice actor, if you have a 2 or 3 hour session, you want to avoid that moment where you've actually strained yourself so that you can continue to work on the next loop and so forth.
There are lots of little tricks. As a director, I've seen a lot of people do some pretty funny things. I mean, I'm nothing that I haven't attempted to do myself, though. Like, you can't, once you're trying to mirror something, and when you're focusing so hard to try and do what that character's doing, you will find yourself instinctively doing the hand gestures that they might be doing. When I was playing Alex Louis Armstrong, I am not kidding, I will pose sometimes when I'm reading something, and not even intentionally, because nobody's watching me, but I will find myself doing it. And I use a lot of hand gestures, especially even doing them.
Yeah, even when you're not thinking, I'll have a tendency to get ready, and sometimes I have a still of the character about to do a spell or something before you end up. So are you ready?
Yeah.
And then you end up just putting your hand forward, and you do mirror the character a lot. I think that's what helps you to embody it. There's a physical language that affects how you characterize.
I think if you really are getting into it, you really are wanting it to happen, you will just sympathetically do it without even thinking about it. I realize this also translates to babies, because whenever I was feeding my daughter when she was really young, it's almost impossible to put food in a baby's mouth, and you want them to open their mouth without opening your mouth. I actually had to focus. I was like, Tabitha, I'm going to try and feed her this time without opening my mouth at all. But it's impossible. You can't do it. Try it sometime.
We have a question here in second row.
Yes, does musicianship help out with that? And I know, Chris Sabat, you talked yesterday about having a background in opera as well. Does that help you with not straining your voice as well as also getting into character, like when you do get physical within the booth?
I mean, using good vocal technique is important, and I do give credit to a lot of the voice training I had when I was younger for helping me know how to use my voice in a way that I don't destroy it. All of us who do voice work a lot are extremely aware of our voice. If it was it's the most valuable thing to us. It's kind of an instrument that we carry around with us, and if that's broken, we can't work. So it's good to be as aware of your voice as possible and know how to use it as well as you can. I know a lot of guys, I'm a very sympathetic director when it comes to not wanting actors to ruin their voices, but also wanting them to do really realistic sounding stuff. And I know guys that will come in and every single time they will ruin their voices, and I beg them not to, but some guys it's just part of their style. They just like to blow themselves out. Eventually they learn how to avoid it. But when you're newer, you have a tendency to be so excited about the job and you're so into what you're doing and inexperienced, and through all that you will sometimes blow your voice out. I did it. I think most people have at least once. Sure.
Question. Can you say this, like in James
He has this very big voice. This is CNN.
If only I could do his voice all the time, it would be amazing.
We have a question back here.
It's kind of the same vein as the last couple of questions. I was always curious, when a character's like screaming on screen or yelling, are you guys actually yelling into the mic? How do you create that effect?
We are, actually. It turns out, and I didn't know until I had a job with Steve Bloom. We were revoicing a horror movie, and I didn't know, but I'm actually really good at screaming in horror. You're either naturally good at it or not. It doesn't hurt your voice. There's like a natural place where you can just scream a lot. But I have a difficulty actually yelling, not screaming, but just yelling. And so you have to learn how to support it, but you can't really fake, you guys, come on! We're almost there! But you have to really make sure you're supporting it, because when the emotion's there, sometimes you do have a tendency to stress your voice. But you can't really fake urgency.
So you can do the real, I'm not asking, I don't want you to do it now, because it'll hurt my ears, but you can do like the real scream. The scream that directors always like, when they have a girl and they're like, can you please just do can you do that real scream, the real one?
That's me.
Yeah.
And I didn't know, and actually what happened is we were working on a Lionsgate film, and everybody there was a real actor, people that had been on screen, and I was the anime actor that the director knew, that thought it'd be good for me to come in because there were teenagers or young people. And again, there's a primal thing with screaming that if you happen to be 45 or 50 years old and you scream, even if you can do girly voices, your natural scream will sound like a mother being murdered, not a 16-year-old hottie in a swimsuit. Apparently, I scream like a 16-year-old hottie. But
in a swimsuit.
I'm so hot in cartoons.
So she has to be in a swimsuit in order to do that scream. Yeah.
But the director called the first actress, and kind of, there was like this kind of a torturous scene, and then she screams at the end and dies, and it really sounded more like an adult film. And he's like, yeah, well, how about this other girl? And he called her up, and then finally he asked me. And I so wanted to please him, but I had never screamed in my life, ever. And when you're doing ADR, they'll have a big film screen in front of you. It's like a sound stage like they have in the movies, and everyone's in the back, and you walk up to a podium, and you put on your headphones, and you follow the scene. And I was literally shaking. I felt like if I mess this up, I'm never going to work for this guy again. And I could tell there was that general, how come Mella's here? But what was great about it is the girl on screen was shaking and scared out of her mind, and so I was able to channel that. And then when it came time for the scream, I didn't know what would come out, and it was this gorgeous, blood-curdling, end of the scene scream. And I remember thinking, yes! But then I turned around, and there were all of these people on the couch, and they're like this. Because it was awful. Like, I had really captured this horrible scene, and that from that moment on, I was like, I'm willing to try some new things. But word gets out, like, Mella, we hear you're a screamer, and it's like a big joke. But I'm the one who does the blood-curdling death throw scream.
Man, that makes me, like, I just have this, I'm so proud of you for that, too. Like, as a voice director, that is a great moment when you know somebody who can do the screams really well, because some people just, even if they can, some people won't. Some people are just, they don't want to do it. They don't want to hurt themselves or something. They just don't want to do it. That was a good question. Other questions? I dare you. I dare you.
I know you have a question.
Oh.
This was our match game champion last
This is
night.
literally the first time I've ever sunk away from the spotlight, but no.
He was the match game champion last night?
This was the match game champion last
I would
night.
have bet if Charles Dunbar had actually looked my shirt.
Well, you didn't win the bonus round, but you were still the champion. Yes.
Since this is about video gaming, do you guys game, and what type of games do you like to play?
That's such a great question. I'm going to start first, and then you can talk to the person who actually is a gamer. I was a little bit of a brain when I was a kid, so I was always tutoring or doing math and chemistry, and whenever I got home, all I wanted to do was be outside. So I used to climb trees, and my mother loved dresses, and now I wear them all the time, but I would climb trees, tear a dress, and be in trouble, and then have to stay inside. But there was a 3-year-old I was babysitting for a girlfriend of mine 2 years ago, and he really wanted me to play with him. He's like, please play the game. I said, I don't think you understand. I'm terrible. And you know, in good school fashion, he's like, if you just try really hard, you could be good. You know, how will you know if you don't try? And I thought, what a sweetheart. And so I sat down. I'm with a 3-year-old. And we were playing this game, and probably about 3 minutes in, he said, maybe this isn't your gift, Miss Mella.
But I hear you are a screamer.
So he offered to play my man for me. But yeah, I'm terrible, but I have fans that will a lot of times tell me, oh my gosh, you were great in this scene, and I have to have them send me screen captures because I can't actually get to these amazing kick-ass scenes that I do in the game.